Very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Hogan's European Outlook. Actually, I wanted to quickly look at the drought situation across the European continent at the moment. Of course, conditions are quite severe, and there had been a lot of talk about the river levels dropping to unprecedented levels, stopping vital trade going from one part of a country to another or from one country to another. But it's interesting actually when you see some of these charts that are getting kind of thrown out there, it kind of makes me question a couple of things with regards to why one chart is quite different to another chart. And this tweet here by Peter Dines or Peter Danes, whatever way you pronounce it. I do apologise if I get it wrong, Peter. But an interesting tweet nonetheless here. World drought, and this is actually off NOAA, and it's interesting how we're seeing so much doomsday scenarios when it comes to climate, and everything is just off the rails now, and it's time to start panicking. It's interesting nonetheless to see what's taking place now. This is the world drought situation here, and Peter says the drought over Europe is off the charts, unprecedented for one of the most intensive agricultural areas in the world. Modern civilization cannot survive without intensive agriculture, and conditions have to be constant for high yields. And valid point, fair enough. But it's interesting here how it's off the charts, but yet, for 2022, this is quite a poor quality chart, if you ask me. And, on the grand scheme of things, yeah, there's a few red spots. Looks very dry indeed. But there's also quite a lot of blue spots on the chart as well. And it's interesting how singling out a particular region or a particular event is 100% down to global warming. And what is going to eventually take place here, folks, is it's going to turn the other way. We're going to end up seeing flooding conditions coming back. Whether it's not going to be next week by what I'm going to show you. It's not going to be the following week either. But nonetheless, eventually we will see a turnaround taking place, and river levels will be high, and gone will be the fear of drought. In fact, flood will become a problem down the road. But it's interesting here, this very, very, very poor, quality chart, to me, doesn't represent a particularly drought-laden or stricken world. You've got plenty of blue areas, including Ireland, and interestingly enough, France. Now, France on this chart looks as if it's in pretty good shape, doesn't it? White, would that be average? Blue, my suspicion would be that it's actually wetter than normal. But yet, you look at this chart, situation of combined drought indicator in Europe, the first 10-day period of August 2022, that looks a lot more severe, and I think probably quite accurate. So I'm not necessarily dismissing or downplaying the drought situation, the agricultural situation that we're facing at the moment. But all these different pieces of information getting thrown in is very confusing. We use global temperature anomaly charts. I'm guilty of it myself. It's a different era. It's a different, 30-year average. And people are guilty on both sides of the global warming issue to using a particular, set of 30 years, depending on what your agenda is. If you want it looking warm, you can get it looking warmer. If you want it looking colder, you can get it looking colder. But this is the problem. Instead of having one proper, a data set that we can all go by, that we can use, that's 100% accurate, then it would make it an awful lot easier, because I am spending a big deal of time watching videos and trying to understand what is going on with Earth's climate. Is it man-made carbon dioxide that's driving the temperature? A lot of the stuff that I've watched isn't, and it's cyclical. And I can understand on the other end of the scale the CO2 argument, but it's these different representations of information that is very, very irritating and very misleading, and it's frustrating because that there certainly looks a lot more dire than that there. Yeah, you've got the deep reds and all that, but how can half of Spain be actually in good shape, if not actually wetter than normal across the northwest? Whereas on the eastern side of Spain, it's just what desert. France looking decent, UK looking dry. In fact, Scotland actually looks drier than England does. So I don't know. That is a shocking quality graph, if you ask me. And this is what you're up against here. That certainly looks a lot more plausible and accurate. So yeah, it's just a simple thought anyway. So temperatures certainly are warm. This is actually the temperatures as of recording. Now, bear in mind, it's well into the evening time across eastern portions of Europe. Temperatures are still in the high 20s, low 30s. Very, very warm indeed. And that has been, of course, forecast here for a few days now that we're going to see increasingly hot conditions across the eastern portion of Europe. Also seeing the building heat across the west, southwest. Low pressure to the west, acting as a heat pump, drawing that warm, humid air up into the British Isles. And I don't know if we did hit 30 degrees in the southeast today. If we did, not surprising given the 850 temperatures. But I'll tell you what, cold front moving gradually south and eastwards through the course of this evening. So we're basically in that zone of rain here. Some rain breaking out, as you can see here, over England. But it's as that frontal system moves eastwards through the overnight period, we're going to see a pulse of moving up from the southwest, and we could have a spell of fairly heavy, intense rainfall anywhere from Southampton right the way up to the Wash and all points east. Could see a fairly interesting night. Heavy rain, thunderstorms, gusty winds that will eventually move through into the North Sea during the course of tomorrow. And then we do have a kind of weak feature that moves in across the British Isles, kind of generally enhancing the showers, some isolated thunderstorms as well. But generally speaking, fairly decent weather as we move into the weekend here. So you can see high pressure building in across the British Isles here. Cast your eyes to the west, we've got another feature edging closer to the UK. That being said, it's not going to penetrate the UK atmosphere. The reason why, that area of high pressure moves north, it builds in strength and essentially shields the UK from seeing a system moving in. But instability over the British Isles, with of course strong daytime warming, you then bubble up the atmosphere, producing isolated showers and thunderstorms across many portions of the British Isles. Looking at the bigger picture here, you can see what takes place. So area of high pressure centered to the north. There's that area of low pressure centered just below Iceland here, but it's a fairly large envelope of low pressure, as you can see. Plenty of showers, and in fact, this is the wrong chart. So yeah, I do apologise. Let's get to the right chart. So this is midnight, Sunday morning. Area of high pressure to the north of the UK, area of low pressure to the west. That high protects that low from moving eastwards, and therefore we will just see showers developing overhead with strong incoming solar radiation. As we move into the early portion of next week, notice the area of high pressure lifts further and further north, but we do have extension of that high pressure all the way down to the south of the UK and Ireland here. So essentially what's happening is we've got this nice strong blocking area of Scandinavian high pressure shielding us on all sides from weather. Iceland, Azores, believe it or not, Europe, and of course the over the Baltic Sea, you've got weather. But essentially the UK is protected by this area of high pressure to the north here. And as you can see here, it looks as if there is very little change according to the ECMWF right the way through next week and into the following weekend. So next weekend, notice here that we have that kind of stretched out high pressure from the mid-Atlantic all the way into the central portion of Europe, essentially protecting the UK from any kind of major weather. But we do have weather now starting to encroach on England and Wales. If you notice here, Scotland largely free of that, but increasingly unsettled across the southern half of the European continent. As you can see, looking at the Cfs V2, this is upcoming week, and you've got the bulk of high pressure centered over Scandinavia. Week 2, there's that area of high pressure then building to the north of the UK, essentially keeping things fairly settled. Into week 3, the area of high pressure retrogrades to the west, kind of start to see weather possibly coming in over the top of that. At the very least, we're going to see kind of a flow coming around that from the northwest, so maybe a fresher theme. And then as we go towards the middle and second half of September, it looks as if high pressure remains the dominant player. Goes against what I was saying about a wet September. When you do get these patterns developing, it can be very hard to shift them. When they do shift, they should shift quite big. But certainly with the La Nina continuing and the Manchurian oscillation set up in a certain way, it can be hard to break these. Essentially what I'm trying to rambling on about is the fact that it looks as if it's going to maintain a fairly dry theme overall for the next couple of weeks here. So this is off the Cfs V2 Precipitation Anomalies. Very dry upcoming 7 days. Drier than normal 8 to 14 days, if you notice here. Then we may get some hints of something shifting middle portion of September, but we'll keep an eye on that. Then it comes back to drier than normal, if you notice. Back to wetter than normal across the northern half of the British Isles for the end of September. Still a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the month of September, that's for sure. And really, when you're looking at sea surface temperatures way above normal, there's no real surprise that temperatures are going to generally be above normal, folks. And I think my concern would be that we could have a fairly mild autumn overall. So this is the upcoming 7 days, 2 meter temperature anomalies. And you can see here pretty much an orange paint bomb encompassing Europe. So we'll wait and see what happens. But let me know your thoughts actually about those charts and what I was talking about. Like I say, I'm not necessarily, getting at the global warming crowd, but it's just this kind of picking and choosing information and sharing what you want people to see. I try my very, very best to not do that, trying to show you my opinion and also exactly what I'm seeing as opposed to just bringing across an agenda. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Do appreciate it. Please like, share, and if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.